As you recall in the previous training video, we learned to go to 3 different screens to find out which resources are overallocated. And every screen had its own different use for finding and getting details about the overallocation. My favorite was the resource usage sheet because it was the most detailed of the 3, wherein I can find the resource here in red that's overallocated, then over in the right pane get specific details about how many hours they're being overworked. Now, at a very simplistic level, if they're being overworked, you can do a couple of things. As you can see here, the writer's working on both tasks here at the same time on the same day, Friday. You can either take one of the tasks and push him out or delay it, or you can just have another resource work on that task and remove writer 1 from the second task. So unassign him from this task and reassign somebody else. Not too difficult. Well, Microsoft Project has a process of delaying or splitting the task automatically for you, just basically with a single click, to avoid the conflict. So if you click this button, it'll actually look at both these tasks that the writer 1 is working on and say, okay, I'm going to delay this task or I'm going to delay the top task out several days so he's not working on both of them at the same time, or depending upon the task and how Project figures it out, it'll actually split the task. So you're working on one task and you move along and you find that it conflicts with another. It may take that task, split it for 0 days that you're working on it, and then when the top task is finished or completed, it'll continue on with that second task. So either way it's going to be delayed, and it's going to delay out the project's end date, which, by the way, what's our project's end date? Come up here, click on the project menu, go down to project information, and right now the finish date is October 6. Okay, keep that in mind. Click cancel. Now before I go ahead and level this or use Project's leveling feature, it's best to save a copy of Project before you level it, even though you can clear the leveling. But keep in mind that after you level, if you add more resources and you find more conflicts, then you level the project again. Project's only going to clear the most recent level. So again, you may want to save this as Project 2, make a copy of it, do your leveling if you like it, then keep that version. Okay, to level it, it's really simple. Come up here, click on Tools, go down to Level Resources. Now we're going to use the manual instead of automatic because automatic will level all over allocated resources instantly. It's going to prevent you from choosing to level or not. So I'm going to do it manually. Make sure by default that's selected and just go ahead and click on Level Now. And then it's going to ask you, do you want to level the entire pool of over allocated resources or just the one that you have selected? Well, I don't have the over allocated resource selected. In which case, if I did, I could click OK and it will figure out about this resource whether to delay one of the tasks that it's working on of the 2 or go ahead and split it. We're going to do the entire pool and click OK, and that's it. And wow, magically, they're no longer over allocated. Well, what did it do? Instead of trying to figure out here what it did, if it delayed the task or split it, one of the ways you can figure out what happened is to come up here and change views. Go up into the View menu, come down to More Views, and I'm going to scroll up to the Leveling Gantt. Just double click on that. And now it looks like the Gantt chart. Over here you have the entry table, then over to the right you should have a chart. If you don't see it, what I like to do is to right click up here on the time scale and go down to Zoom and say zoom in on the entire project, click OK, and there we go. I'm going to scroll over just a little bit. Okay, first of all, before I go into the screen here, I want to know what the project finish date is. Remember, it was October the 6th, so I can either come up here and click on Project and go to Project Information. There it is, October the 21st, or I can look over here in the leveling chart. First off, notice that we have 2 different colored bars over in our resource leveling chart. Everything that's in green is what it was before it was pre-leveled, and then the blues are what it's like after it was leveled. So coming up to the top, you can see that there's not any change with the examined software. But when we go down to Search Internal Documentation, we have the pre-level. When you hover over it, gives you the original date and times, and then you have it what it was like after it was leveled. And it did a couple of things. First of all, it delayed the task up to a certain point, and you can hover over that little gray line right here, and you should get a little pop-up there that it will tell you that it was 5 days delayed. Or you can come over here and look in the leveling delay, and you've got 5 E-days, or 5 elapsed days. So it went from this point, the starting point, went down to this point and delayed it by 5 days. Then it started it, and then after a couple of days here, the 13th through the 17th, at the 17th it did a split. And this is what it looks like, a split. It starts the task for a couple of days, and then it says, okay, we're just going to split it and complete it at a later date. So it delayed it, and then what it couldn't finish here because of other resource conflicts, it split the task out. Because if you notice that Writer 1 is practically assigned to all these tasks, so we can't have him start it here and continue on, because then he'll be over allocated for another task. If you do it here, he's over allocated because he's working on these other tasks. So Project says, look, the next time that Writer 1 is free is way over here. So it split the task and says, this is the time when Writer 1 is available, and he's not going to be in conflict with any other task that he's going to be working on. So there's the first elapsed days, the first split task, and then as you come down here, the next elapsed was this task right here, and you can look over here in the entry table. It went 4 days, elapsed days. So the green bar again, what it was originally before it was leveled, then the blue bar, and then the gray line says we elapsed 4 days, and then we started that task after we used the leveling feature in Project. Now because of all these delays and splitting the task especially, the project's end date is going to be delayed. You can see that originally when you hover over it, that it went out a couple of days from here, but notice that this task up at the top, because of the split, pushes it out even further. So originally without the split task, you would say, oh, it's been delayed, as you recall from hover over the green little diamond here, the pre-level, October the 6th. And then it goes to the October the 8th, but because this task has been split and it's pushed out, it says, we've got some slack time here. So if you hover over that green bar, and it's not pulling up here, it just quickly flashes, it'll actually give you the time of when the project finishes. If you can't see it here, the project's finish date, because it just flashes so quickly, you can come up and click on the project menu, go to project information, and there it is, October 21st. Again, its original pre-level date was October the 6th, and then because of the sequential successors here, it breaks it down to October the 8th, but we have a split task that goes beyond October the 8th, so the milestone here, when the project finishes, has some slack time that goes all the way out until that October the 21st, which we hover over the last task here, that ends on October the 21st. In fact, if I select it, you can see it's selecting it over here in the entry table, and I can drag the split bar out. Looking at the entry table, see that? It ends October the 21st. Down here it says the manual is going to be completed by October the 8th, but according to the chart, because of the slack time, because this task has been split, the finish date here should be the 21st. And of course the project summary task will summarize that for us and say, well, it is going to be the 21st. And go ahead and click and drag that split bar back and double click to snap it right to it. Now this is one of the reasons why I don't like using the leveling features, because it pushes things out that maybe I wouldn't choose to do. If you don't have the time to go ahead and figure out if you want to split a task or reassign another resource, because again the leveling, all it does is it's either going to delay tasks or split them. It doesn't give you that flexibility obviously that you have to say, well, I don't want Writer 1 to be working on this second task, I'll have somebody else. Or I'll increase their overtime hours. So they finish with this task a little bit early and start on the next task and still try to keep within the timeline of the project. So because of that flexibility, I don't use it, but you may find that it works for you. Now having said that, if you don't like the way it's leveled, at least in this instance, but you'll still be using it, you can hit the undo button several times, but if you click save and you no longer can undo it, then the only other thing you can do is to clear the leveling. Now keep in mind two things. If you keep leveling, it only clears the most recent leveling. So if this is the most recent, then you're in luck. If not, then you're out of luck, obviously, and then you have to revert back to your copies, if you made copies of your original before you leveled it. The other thing to keep in mind is that there's only certain screens that you can clear the leveling in, and this is what I mean. For example, in this screen, if I want to clear the leveling, I'd come up here, click on Tools, go down to Level Resources, and then there's the Clear Leveling button. If I click Cancel and I right-click on the Collapse View bar, and let's say I'm in the Resource Sheet, and I come up here and click on Tools to Level Resources, where's the Clear Leveling? I can't click on it here, so click Cancel, and a couple of screens that you can go to get this option to clear your leveling is either the Leveling or Gantt charts. So I can right-click, go to the Gantt chart, and I can clear the leveling here, or right-click, go down to More Views, and go to the Leveling Gantt, double-click on that, where we were just at. Come up, click on Tools, go down to Level Resources, click Clear, say you want to clear the entire project, and click OK. And as you notice here in this view, you can see that we're back to square one because we have the greens, the pre-level, lined up with the same colors of the blue bars, which is after leveling. In other words, there's no leveling that's been done. And more to the point, you can see when you cleared the leveling, remember we had 5 elapsed days, I believed it was here, then 4 down below. They went back to 0 and 0. And then when you click Save, Project assumes that you notice the changes here and it clears out those highlighted or selected cells. And then of course, because you haven't leveled the overallocated resources, if we go back and right click on the collapse view bar, go back to the resource usage, we're back to overallocated resources. And then again, it's up to us if you want to go ahead and unassign Writer 1 to one of these tasks and reassign somebody else, delay the task ourselves, or push it out so it's not starting at the same time. Or as I mentioned in the previous training video, you can contour your resources here by changing the individual work hours. So instead of 8 hours here, put 0 hours and put 8 hours over here. So we're basically saying don't put all your hours up front, but backload it on this task while Writer 1 is working on another task. And as you recall, when we change it, for example, 0, hit enter, notice here's the contour here. When you hover over it, it says this assignment has been edited. And then we come back here and we say, well, let's just delay it back to 8 here, hit enter. And so the task is still X amount of days long, including the first day here, which is 0 hours, but the contour is going to say, let's don't work it all up front, let's work it towards the back of the duration of the task. Thanks for watching. Hey, as a quick reminder, if you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. You can also click on me and subscribe to my channel, get notified of the latest videos, and for only $2 a month, you can have access to all my Microsoft Office training videos.